More than a century ago, a snowy streetcar ride sparked an idea that would change every rainy commute. At the dawn of the automobile age, drivers had to jump out into freezing sleet to wipe a blinded windshield, turning simple trips into dangerous gambles. Mary Anderson, a sharp-eyed businesswoman, sketched a clever fix after watching a motorman struggle to see through a wet window: a rubber blade on a swinging arm, controlled from inside the vehicle, which she patented in 1903. Her invention was simple, brilliant, and life-saving, yet automakers initially shrugged and she never cashed in on the idea. By the time the industry adopted and refined it, her patent had expired. In the next few minutes you'll see her original prototype brought to life, learn the surprising twists that kept her name out of the spotlight for decades, and discover how that single lever evolved into today's rain-sensing, synchronized wipers. Stick around. Every time you flip yours on, you're living Mary Anderson's legacy, and her story has a few unexpected turns you won't want to miss. Mary Anderson, Roots and Early Observations. During the late 19th century she grew up in the American South, in a family and community where practical solutions mattered as much as talk. Born in Alabama to a household that expected women to be resourceful, she learned early on to notice small inconveniences and ask how they might be fixed. That habit of paying attention to ordinary problems followed her as she traveled and worked in business, shaping a mindset more interested in making things work than in receiving praise. A visit to a bustling city put the specific problem squarely in front of her. Streetcar and automobile drivers struggled to see through rain, sleet, and snow, and the only recourse was to open a window and lean out or to stop and clear the glass by hand. The danger was obvious: reduced visibility, interrupted travel, and a risky, inefficient process for something as simple as keeping a windshield clear. She watched drivers repeatedly sacrifice comfort and safety just to get a short, unobstructed view of the road. She translated that observation into a straightforward mechanical idea. Her concept used a pivoting arm with a rubber blade attached to the outside of the window and a control inside the vehicle so the operator could clear water without leaving the seat. It was not a grand invention in the sense of complex machinery, but a precise application of common materials and simple leverage to solve a repeated hazard. She documented and protected the idea through the patent system, ensuring the mechanism's design and method of operation were clearly recorded. Those early years, rooted in a practical upbringing and sharpened by experience in business and travel, shaped how she approached problems: notice, simplify, and implement. The example of watching a driver lean into a stormy streetcar, then sketching a handheld solution that could be operated from inside, shows how ordinary scenes can inspire lasting change. For anyone who pays attention to daily friction points, her path is a reminder that steady observation and a willingness to sketch solutions can turn annoyance into innovation. Look for the small, persistent problems around you and treat them like clues. Detailed note-taking, a few sketches, and a readiness to test a simple prototype can be the first steps toward a useful invention. Inventing the first windshield wiper, the 1903 mechanism. When sleet, rain, and city grit blurred a driver's view, Mary Anderson set out to keep hands warm and eyes on the road. Drivers at the time often had to stop, get out, or lean forward through open windows to clear the glass, hazardous and slow. She responded with a simple mechanical idea that removed the need to expose oneself to the elements and kept control inside the vehicle. Her device used a pivoting arm fitted with a flexible rubber blade that pressed against the outside surface of the windshield. Operated from inside the cab by a lever, the arm described an arc across the glass, sweeping away water and debris. The operator moved the handle back and forth, that manual motion transmitted through a spindle to the external arm, which then wiped the pane clean. It sounds modest now, but in practice it transformed the driver's relationship to visibility and safety. The mechanism's parts were straightforward and practical: a metal arm and brace to anchor the assembly to the vehicle, a rubber or flexible squeegee for wiping, and an interior control that let the driver actuate the sweep without opening the window. A spring or return arrangement kept the blades seated against the glass and allowed the arm to resume a resting position. Mounting brackets fastened to the exterior frame so the unit could be retrofit to existing cars and streetcars. No major re-engineering of the vehicle was required. This focus on simplicity made the idea immediately functional and easy to maintain. Operationally, the system relied on human timing and judgment. Short, rhythmic strokes cleared intermittent drizzle and brief snowfalls effectively, continuous heavy storms exposed the limits of manual wiping, which later drove innovations toward automatic, motorized solutions. Still, as an early add-on, it demonstrated how a compact mechanism could change routine practice. Fewer stops, fewer accidents caused by impaired sight, and a measurable improvement in driver comfort. Think of it as early human-centered engineering, a problem observed in everyday life, solved with a low-tech, high-impact tool. To appreciate the mechanics up close, consult the original patent drawings or museum replicas. Seeing the bracket, arm and squeegee together makes the cleverness obvious. Try to notice, next time you watch a modern wiper sweep, how that visible, repetitive motion traces straight back to this compact, manually operated mechanism, and let it remind you how small inventions shape safer journeys. Patent, business challenges, and public reception. Early motorists regularly had to stop, step out, and clear their windshields by hand, a dangerous interruption that Mary Anderson turned into an opportunity. She patented a practical, driver-operated mechanism, a pivoting arm with a rubber blade that swept away rain and snow, controlled from inside the vehicle by a lever. The United States patent, number 743801, described a simple linkage and a flexible wiping element that could be manually operated without the driver leaving the seat. The design solved a clear safety and convenience problem with elegant mechanical simplicity. Securing legal protection was only the first victory. The patent gave her exclusive rights for a set period, which should have enabled licensing deals or manufacturing arrangements. She demonstrated the prototype and tried to interest automobile manufacturers and investors, but the response was tepid. Many in the emerging auto industry dismissed the product as unnecessary or an added expense. Some felt drivers could simply open a window or stop to clear the glass. The novelty of a small add-on device clashed with conservative business thinking that favored established fixtures over accessory innovations. Commercial obstacles quickly mounted. Large manufacturers were reluctant to alter vehicle production processes for what they viewed as a marginal convenience, and small-scale production required capital she did not possess. Enforcing a patent is costly, and litigating against entrenched companies or persuading them to license a new technology demands resources and business networks she lacked. Social dynamics of the era also played a role. Inventors who were women often encountered extra skepticism and limited access to industrial decision-makers and financiers. As a result, the legal protection ultimately expired without yielding significant financial return for her, even though the basic idea endured and was later refined by others. Public reception initially ranged from indifference to polite curiosity. Early reviews and buyer reactions did not create a market boom. Drivers and manufacturers who were focused on propulsion and chassis technology gave little attention to accessories. Once vehicles became faster and travel conditions harsher, the practicality of a windshield wiping device became obvious, and similar systems were adopted widely. Recognition for the original inventor, however, lagged behind adoption. The invention's ubiquity contrasted sharply with the lack of compensation and contemporary acclaim she received. Later historical accounts and museum exhibits have highlighted her contribution, turning a once-overlooked patent into a celebrated example of everyday innovation. Her story points to enduring lessons for inventors and entrepreneurs. A solid patent is valuable, but it is not a guarantee of commercial success. Market timing, manufacturing partnerships, capital for production, and access to distribution channels matter just as much as the idea itself. If you care about supporting underrecognized innovators, consider advocating for better pathways from prototype to production, mentoring inventors on licensing strategies, or backing organizations that help independent creators commercialize their patents. Transforming travel, technological and social impact. Drivers faced a simple but dangerous limitation. A windshield smeared with rain, sleet, or snow could turn the road into a blur and force a halt. Clearing the glass often meant stopping, leaning out, or enduring a compromised view, none of which were acceptable for safe, reliable travel. That persistent visibility problem created a bottleneck for the new mobility that automobiles promised. A practical mechanical fix changed everything. Mary Anderson devised a manually operated arm with a rubber blade that an occupant could move from inside the vehicle to sweep precipitation from the windshield. The mechanism was simple to use and built around human factors. No need to step outside, no distraction from driving, and it solved the core problem directly. She secured legal protection for her design, establishing the idea that windshield clearing could be handled from within the cabin rather than by the driver exposing themselves to the elements. The technical ripple effects were immediate and long-lasting. What began as a hand-operated device matured into electric motors, dual-blade systems, and aerodynamic designs that reduce streaking and noise. Intermittent wiper controls and rain-sensing modules followed, integrating electronics and sensors to match wiping frequency to conditions automatically. Today's vehicles tie wipers into climate control, defogging, and camera cleaning systems. Even advanced driver assistance systems and autonomous sensor suites depend on having optics and sensors kept clear, so the basic concept has been refined to serve an increasingly complex set of functions. Socially, the ability to maintain clear sight lines in bad weather reshaped expectations for mobility. Commuting schedules became more dependable, commercial fleets could run in a wider range of conditions, and emergency services gained a small but critical edge in response reliability. Everyday travel became less seasonal and more predictable as visibility stopped being a frequent reason to delay or cancel trips. Beyond the practical, the story of a woman solving a hands-on safety problem highlights how modest, user-focused inventions can have outsized cultural impact, changing behavior, industry standards, and the pace at which societies accept new technologies. Take the next wet commute as a moment of appreciation. A simple blade across glass now stands between you and a halted journey. Check your own wipers, notice how modern systems automate what was once manual, and support practical inventors whose small, focused improvements keep people moving and safe every day. Remembering Mary Anderson, legacy and historical recognition. Rain and sleet once turned a simple trip into a hazard. Drivers were often left nearly blind by the elements. Mary Anderson changed that with a practical fix, a manually operated swinging arm with a rubber blade that a driver could move from inside the vehicle. Her U.S. patent, number 743,801 granted in 1903, described the mechanism clearly and set down a blueprint that automakers and engineers would iterate on for decades. Clear, mechanical, and directly aimed at a real safety problem, the device was a straightforward solution to a persistent risk on the road. At first, her idea did not translate into wealth or immediate adoption. Automakers and vehicle owners were slow to embrace the concept, and Anderson did not profit from her patent. Yet the core concept of a windshield clearing blade persisted, evolving through electrical motors, intermittent settings, and modern sensor-driven systems. Today's wipers are descendants of that simple rubber blade and operating arm, a lineage that underlines how a single clear solution can seed long-term technical progress. Her legacy lives on in more than hardware alone. Engineers cite her work when tracing the development of automotive safety features. Educators use her story to show how observation, empathy, and mechanical ingenuity come together in invention. Museums and patent archives include her patent and often reference her role when curating exhibits on early automotive technology. Exhibitions about women inventors and STEM outreach programs use her example to challenge misconceptions about who invents and to inspire students with relatable problem-solving techniques. There are practical ways to keep that memory active. Teachers can add her patent and design sketches to hands-on lessons about mechanics and human-centered design. Car museums and local historical societies can highlight underrecognized inventors in guided tours and displays. And readers can look up the original patent document to study the language and drawings of early inventive work. Remembering Mary Anderson becomes more than honoring one person. It's about recognizing how small, thoughtful innovations improve millions of lives and about ensuring that stories of overlooked contributors, especially women in technology, remain visible in engineering history and public education. Next time rain blurs your windshield, remember Mary Anderson, a sharp-eyed problem solver who saw drivers struggling for visibility and sketched a simple fix, a hand-operated rubber blade controlled from inside the car. She patented that idea in 1903, faced skepticism, didn't cash in on the fortune it later became, but sparked a change that made driving safer for everyone. Summary: a clear problem, blocked vision, a clever mechanical solution, a lever and rubber blade, a patent that planted the seed, and an everyday legacy. Modern wipers and automatic rain sensors still trace back to her insight. That tiny invention ties directly into your daily life. Every wipe your windshield makes is a nod to Mary's curiosity and practical thinking. If this story surprised you, like the video, subscribe for more short histories of overlooked inventors, and tell us in the comments which forgotten innovator you want next. Stay tuned, next episode will uncover another unsung genius who quietly reshaped how we travel.